Okay, and come back to me. So welcome everybody to our Mother's Day afternoon tea cooking class. We're really grateful that you are giving up some time this afternoon to join us. This is our fifth class that we've run as a team, and we've really enjoyed them during lockdown, and our customers have enjoyed them as well. Oh, I've got a really bad echo. Right, I'm going to take my AirPods. My AirPods. Let's just take those off. Just put it in speaker. Right, I've still got an echo. I don't understand that. You guys don't have an echo. So yes, this is our fifth class. I'm just going to very quickly introduce myself and introduce the team. So my name's Lindsay.
Lindsay, you've still got a really bad echo.
Just under 3 years. I started as an owner.
You've still got a really bad echo.
Yeah, can everybody who is speaking please mute? Or, Michaela, can you mute everybody? If you can do that easily, that would be really handy. Yeah, so I've been working with Thermomix for about 3 years. I was one of those people, and I'm sure there are a lot of you like this, that said they'd never own a Thermomix because I didn't need one. But actually, it was once I saw it in action that I was really blown away by what it could do, and a few months later I bought it. So really, that's why I'm really passionate in particular about getting people to see it, and why these classes are so important, because we're able to show not only the customers but also their friends and contacts exactly what a Thermomix can do. So also on the call and presenting, I won't flip round at the moment, but we'll do it as we come to each presenter in turn. We've got Sarah Cohen, who again was an owner first and decided to become an advisor just because she absolutely loved her Thermomix and wanted to share the Thermomix love. And that is really what this business is all about. A lot of us on here are owners. Michaela's another one. So Michaela, you'll see, she's going to do our strawberry lemonade. Michaela is the Duchess of Oundle, she calls herself. Michaela was a customer of mine initially and absolutely embraced Thermomix and now shares it with others as well. And, you know, Michaela's day job is an IT consultant. Sarah's day job, Sarah works with horses. So we've all got other day jobs that we do. And for us, Thermomix is a passion. And, you know, we just really enjoy sharing what it can do with others. So that's Michaela. I've got Marie on here. Marie's going to be doing the French fruit tarts and the banoffee tarts. Marie has her own food business, a little bit like me. Marie is, well, not like me, Marie, I'm not like Marie at all. I'm not a chocolatier. So Marie specialises in beautiful handmade chocolates. And she also offers chocolate making workshops and cocktail making workshops and corporate events when we are not in lockdown. So she has a wealth of knowledge about food and does some really interesting things with her Thermomix. So she's worthwhile at following. And her Thermomix group is Thermomix Bob's Hints and Tricks. And then we've got Claire as well on the call. Now, Claire and I met online a little while ago. Claire was a customer and we got talking, and Claire's joined the business as an advisor. She's not actually part of my team. She's part of somebody else's. But it's just really nice because we all work together in a very cooperative way. You know, there's not competition between us. We're all here in order to spread awareness of the Thermomix brand and create customers to help Vorwerk achieve their mission of having a Thermomix in every UK home eventually. Now, we've got a long way to go, a lot of ground to cover, so that's why these classes are really important for us. And who else? Have I missed anybody else out? There's usually somebody that I miss out, so if I have missed somebody out, please shout, but I think I've got everybody covered. So now I've introduced everybody, we are going to just go on to the main cooking segments, which I know is what you've all been after. So I'm going to hand over to Sarah, who I'm hoping is there, and I'm going to spotlight Sarah so that you all see her rather than me. Hang on, let's put Sarah onto spotlight. Oh, remove spotlight. So maybe
I've done it, Lindsay. I've done it.
Spotlight. Michaela, have you already spotlighted Sarah?
I've done it.
Because
Yeah, all done.
Yeah, we're done.
All done.
We're having technical issues this morning. There she is. She's spotlighted in her beautiful apron. in her Great British. So Sarah actually is a former Olympian. That is Sarah's background, and she doesn't like me sharing that, but Sarah was a 3-day eventer and competed in London and Athens. So we are really delighted to have you, Sarah. And I'm just going to allow you to present your first dish.
Thank you. It's great to be here and doing something completely different and out of the ordinary to what I'm used to. But anyway, today I'm going to make the cheesecakes in the jars. I've already prepped a bit and I've done the base already. So I have put in butter, digestive biscuits, a few hazelnuts and some brown sugar. And I've whizzed it for 10 seconds and then I've placed it in the bottom of the jars already. And then I'm going to do a little bit back to front because I want to get the jam on, because that just takes a bit longer before I make the middle bit. So I'm going to, and I'm lucky enough at the moment to have 2 Thermomixes. Okay, so for the jam, I'm going to put in 200 grams of the mixed fruit. So I've just used frozen berries here. And then I'm doing the 40 grams of sugar. And then it's telling me, just to put the lid on. And so I'm going to set this for, this is going to cook for 11 minutes. To speed 1, 100 degrees for 11 minutes. So now I'm going to get on with the middle bit. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Turn yourself off.
All good.
So it's quite amazing, isn't it, that you can make jam in about 10 minutes.
Oh, that's brilliant.
At the start of a recipe, and you could make coulis in exactly the same way. Yeah, just having that Thermomix means that it just makes it more accessible for everybody to do something like that, because I bet you wouldn't have thought to make jam just prior to making a cheesecake if you'd have had to have done it all by hand.
Okay, so we turn back on. So I'm going to make the middle bit of the cheesecake. So it's asking me for 300 grams of cream cheese. So I've just used Philadelphia. After learning what.
There are other cream cheeses available.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sarah.
There are. Hang on. Right, 50 grams of the whipped cream. It says thickened cream, but I'm just going to use some whipping cream. And there we go. 60 grams of caster sugar. Oh, I can't wait to try this. I've been looking forward to this a week. Right, and then some vanilla sugar, or you can use vanilla extract. So I'm going to just use some vanilla extract. Okay. And then a pinch of salt. Then the 2 eggs. Getting that. And I'm going to put the lid on. Gosh, I love it. I just love it how it talks to everything. Right, now it's going to blend it for a speed for 1 minute. So I'll turn that on. I was mixing it just for a minute. And then I'm going to be steaming them. These are what the bases. I'm using these little jars. They're brilliant. They've got their own little lids. Got Amazon 200 ml jars, which are perfect for this recipe, I hope.
So this is great, isn't it? With the Thermomix and having cookie dough. I mean, you're just using frozen berries there, so you could really adapt this recipe if you just whatever bag of berries or fruit you've got in the freezer. It doesn't, it doesn't shout at you. So it's very versatile how you can adapt the recipes.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good point, Michaela, because I often get asked by customers and prospective customers that thinking about buying Thermomixes, can you amend the ingredients? Can you skip steps? Can you add more of something, less of something? And the answer to that question is yes, absolutely. These are guided recipes, and the key term there, as Marie always says, is guided. They're there for your information, but if you want to deviate or use your own particular version of a recipe, you absolutely can. Right, so let's go back to Sarah, see what she's doing.
Now I'm just pouring the middle bit in. I think I'm going to need a little bit more on each one. whilst the jam is still cooking.
So this is a really quick pudding, isn't it? I mean, you can whip this up in a matter of minutes, really. If you've got people in those, you know, the golden old days where we used to be able to have people for dinner, this would be an ideal dinner party pudding. So that,
and you know, do it the day before as well, so you can be really organised, which
exactly.
Right, there we go. That will do. Then it's telling me cover jars, so I'll put the lids on. As quick as I can, putting the lids on.
And it's great actually as well to show a recipe that uses the varoma, because the varoma is often something that I hear, certainly in all the welcome visits that I do, people don't use the varoma to its full potential. And it is fantastic for doing steamed puddings. I did some little steamed carrot cakes at a demo a couple of weeks ago. I also made and then steamed my Christmas pudding in the varoma this year or last year. So they just get put in the varoma.
Yeah, just going into the varoma. It fits perfectly in there.
Little lid on.
The lid on. I'm just going to give the bowl a quick swill out.
Yep.
And it's great, you can sterilise your jars in the varoma as well before you put, you know, jam and stuff like that in.
Yeah, absolutely. And the key sort of benefit of using your bowl like this, yes, you give it a quick rinse out and you add some more water to it. It effectively cleans itself while it's steaming your food away. So it's brilliant to have it, you know, another way it self cleans while it's steaming away.
It's told me to add the water.
Yeah.
Now put the varoma in. Oh, I need the lid. It won't shut. That's the varoma into position. And now that's going to cook. It's going to steam away on the varoma setting for 22 minutes.
Brilliant. So easy. Whilst your jam is, how long have you got left on your jam?
I've got 5 minutes left on my jam.
Well, there you go. So beautiful dinner party or dessert done in less than 10 minutes work. Fantastic. Right, so Michaela spotlighted me, thank you very much. And now we are going to do the smoked salmon choux pastry buns, which I'm actually really excited to show you because there's lots to talk about. And choux pastry, again, is something that most people, if they didn't have a Thermomix, probably wouldn't bother with because it's a bit of a faff. Now, my background, I'm a trained chef. And, you know, I've made choux pastry many times in a saucepan, having to carefully control the melting process of the butter, making sure it melts at exactly the same time as the water reaches boiling temperature, so you don't have too much evaporation and steam because that will affect the quality of the final choux. And then, you know, then you've got all that vigorous beating by hand, so you've got to beat the flour in, then you've got to let it cool, beat the eggs in. When you do it in a Thermomix, it couldn't be easier. It takes all of that effort away from you. And for me, that summarizes what this machine is all about. It still enables me to cook like a pro, to cook like a chef, but it takes out all of that variability. And we've all had things which don't work for whatever reason, despite following the recipe. When you follow the recipe to the letter with your Thermomix, you are guaranteed a restaurant quality result. Right, so without further ado, I am going to get on to making my filling. So this is the smoked salmon and preserved lemon choux buns, and we'll have a little talk about the preserved lemon in a minute. So it's asking me, the first step of this recipe is to put in 100 grams of smoked salmon, so that's going to go straight in, and then click on next. 200 grams of ricotta. Now this ricotta actually I made yesterday, so you may not be aware, you can easily make ricotta and a lot of soft cheeses and hard cheeses as well in the Thermomix. Ricotta is very, very easy. All you need to do is have some full cream milk, heat it up to 80 degrees, takes about 10 minutes, and then you add some lemon juice or vinegar. There's a guided recipe on Cookie D to help you, so you don't need to remember all of this. Add your lemon juice and vinegar, mix it around. The acid will curdle the ricotta, and then you just strain it through a piece of muslin or a nut melt bag into a bowl. And the benefit is not only do you get this beautiful ricotta out, you've also then got, because it will separate into your curds, which is your ricotta, and then the whey, which is the sort of the clear liquid. Now that whey, don't get rid of it. I made American pancakes this morning for the children. I could put it into waffles. I can make, it's acidulated, so it makes brilliant scones. So Claire could use it in her scone recipe in a little bit instead of using buttermilk. There's many, many uses. And in fact, you can also use it in smoothies. So it's kind of like a free, you know, extra product. So never throw it away. So I've got loads of whey now to use up. So that's my ricotta gone in. And then it's asking me to put in a little bit of preserved lemon. So it's preserved lemon. I don't know, Marie, if you've used the preserved lemon before in your Moroccan dishes. It's something that I actually have rarely bothered buying, but I thought as I was doing this on a demo this afternoon, I would get the preserved lemon, and it just comes in a little jar like this. There you go. I just found it in Asda yesterday. If you didn't have it, you could just use some lemon zest. So you know, sometimes again I get people saying, oh well, I haven't got half these ingredients. The trouble with cookie dough and all these guided recipes, especially with things like the curries, is that you need a huge store cupboard full of ingredients. There are often things that you can easily swap in and swap out, and that's why you have an advisor, because your advisor will be able to guide you as to really whether you need that precise ingredient or whether there's something else that you can use in its place. So a little bit of lemon juice. I'm just going to squeeze a bit of lemon juice in. Is it asking me a tablespoon?
Those preserved lemons, Lindsay. Yeah, you're right. I use them in Moroccan cooking all the time, which I'm a massive fan of, Middle Eastern and Moroccan cooking. But, you know, even if you just put half of it in with your rice, when you're doing just normal rice, you get this beautiful lemon scented rice. It's not, it's not as sharp as adding lemon juice. It's much more mellow, much more sort of lower in its tones. So it's really nice. It just gives a fragrance to it, but without being overpowering at all.
Great, thanks for that, Marie. That's brilliant. So now I know what to do with the rest of my jar. So whilst Marie was talking, I've just added in some dill. It did ask for fresh dill, but I forgot to buy it yesterday. And then some black pepper. So that's just gone straight in. And then we are just going to mix it all together. Speed 6 for 20 seconds. It's just going to blend it. Have a look at that. This will be a fantastic filling actually for pasta. So if I've got some left over, I'm going to make some little pasta, some tortellini, and put this in, or ravioli. Let's have a little look. There we go. That's my filling. So it's ground down the smoked salmon. It's almost like pinkish actually. And the ricotta, so that's become creamy. Now what it wants me to do is put it straight into a piping bag fitted with a star attachment. So here's my piping. I like to use these disposable piping bags. Again, you can order them on Amazon. I don't actually dispose of them after every use. I can't bring myself to do that. I do wash them out thoroughly and reuse them a number of times just to minimize that waste. So because my ricotta was quite cold and quite firm actually, this won't need to be fridged as per the recipe for about an hour. I could use this straight away because it's a nice thick paste, but I have to say it smells absolutely gorgeous. So let's just get that in. I'll worry about the rest of it in a minute. So that's my, and as you'll notice with my piping bag, I've just got it sat over a glass.
I was just admiring that tip, Lindsay.
Yeah, so I can fill it easily. And then I just squeeze it down. And there we go. Ready to use. So when I use it, oh, have I got a split there? This is because I've reused it one too many times. I'll have to deal with that when I'm off camera. But when I use a piping bag, I just put my fingers into an L shape, hold the top of the bag, twist the rest of the bag around my forefinger, twist the bag underneath, so I've got full control of it. You can see it's bursting at seams. I've used this obviously one too many times, and then I've got full control and I can pipe really easily. So that's the filling. Right, onto the choux pastry, the exciting bit. So what you'd obviously have to do if you didn't have a second bowl is at this point wash out your bowl thoroughly, because you want to start with a clean bowl. But that's why, you know, often Thermomix owners, and we would recommend having a second bowl with your machine, because you can chop and change and carry on with recipes with less washing up in between. So it's asked me to transfer to a piping bag, place into the refrigerator, Then preheat the oven, ready for the shoot, line a baking tray. So all I've done here is I've got my baking tray ready, and I've just got this reusable, again, you can see I like to use things as many times as possible, piece of reusable silicone baking parchment on there. And now we're coming on to the choux pastry. So if you've never used your Thermomix for choux pastry, you are going to be amazed at how easy it is to do. So again, it tells me how to do it. 50 grams of unsalted butter, chilled and cut into pieces. That's already in there. 125 grams of water already in there. Now I'm going to put the lid on, and I'm just going to heat that up. So it's going to heat up for 2 minutes at 100 degrees. So that is just going to cook away for 2 minutes. After that, we're going to go, I think we'll go to somebody else while it's heating up. And then I will come back and show you what to do with the rest of it. So let's hand over to Claire for the time being.
There you go, Claire.
Yeah.
Right. Hello, everyone. Right, I'm going to be doing, while Lindsay's doing that, I'm doing the chorizo, red pepper and paprika scones. That's time of 2 minutes. Right, so what it's asked me to do already is preheat the oven, which I've done. Line a baking tray with baking paper. My baking paper isn't as old as Lindsay's, so I've got one of these silicone ones instead. I've done that. And this, for me, the guided cooking is the thing that's made me a much more confident cook, a much more capable cook. Because before I loved cooking, but I didn't have the confidence to do it. Whereas this now, as Lindsay said, if you follow every recipe that's on here, you won't go wrong. I've only had one fail in 4 years, and it was nothing to do with that. It was as soon as I'd made the baguette dough, brought it out, tried to make a baguette shape, it all went a little bit awry. So I've got to revisit that one. Right, it's asking me to heat some vegetable oil, to sort of toast, if you like, some red pepper and some chorizo, which I've done again just to speed it up. You wouldn't need to do that during a demo. And then it's asking me to put in some self-raising flour, which I've pre-weighed, but again, you wouldn't need to do that. This is just purely Blue Peter style, because you've got the scales inbuilt, another piece of equipment that you don't need. So it just guides you for exactly what to put in. So this is asking for 450 grams of self-raising flour, which is going straight in. And then it's asking for some garlic powder. So again, I've just done these, Blue Peter styly, some baking powder. You can actually make gluten-free baking powder, which I discovered at a demo the other week for a friend who was gluten-free. So it's opened up, again, Cookie Do's just opened up my eyes to the possibilities that the 68,000 recipes that are now on there, I'll be a long time dead before I've cooked them all. So, and there's just, there's a whole host that are on there. Smoked paprika going in, 1.5 teaspoons of smoked paprika. And then some salt, a little bit of salt. And then put the lid on, which is here. So that's just going to mix everything together. Just for 4 seconds. So it's a very labour intensive recipe, this one. 4 seconds, speed 6. And that's done. There you go, I'm exhausted with that stage already. And then the next thing to go, which is one of my favourite things, is butter. I haven't bought butter in nearly 2 years now because I make butter, and it makes me very, very happy. And it makes my teenagers very happy because it's so easy. And it's one of these things that I never, having watched cooking programs for years and MasterChef Australia for years, I just didn't switch on to the fact that to make butter, it's just a tub of double cream. So we make it all the time, and I'll make unsalted butter for cooking. I make spreadable butter and just add a bit of rapeseed and some salt, make garlic and herb butter. So the boys have always got it for emergency pizzas and emergency dough balls. Right, that's just going straight in.
And it's cheaper, isn't it, to make your own butter?
God.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Especially the spreadable. I used to buy a Lurpak spreadable, which was at £3.75. And this is half the price, absolutely half the price. And the other benefit you'll see coming up imminently is the byproduct of making butter is you get buttermilk for free.
Yeah.
And obviously it's rude not to. So this is going straight in.
You're going to use your homemade buttermilk in the scones, which is fantastic. And I could either use my whey from having made the ricotta or the buttermilk as well. So lots of options for you.
And another labour intensive 4 seconds now.
That's why you've got your Wonder Woman apron on, Claire.
A bit low.
We need a Wonder Woman transfer for the fronts of our machines, don't we?
Definitely. Right, so now it's asking for the 50 grams of homemade buttermilk. In fact, that's not even that one, that's this one. We've got so many bottles of homemade stuff, I'm never even sure. So homemade buttermilk, which is amazing. So that's 50 grams. Really good in baking. So Irish soda bread is good for that as well. And then what have we got next? 1 medium egg, which I'm going to crack into a bowl before getting a load of shell in there, just in case. There we go, that's fine. So 1 medium egg going in, and then back on again. Okay, so it's now going to do the kneading, which is 20 seconds. So not enough time for me to unload the dishwasher, but still less than if I was doing it by hand. So
yeah, well, it's probably enough time to pour up a measure of gin, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I've seen those bottles.
So while it's kneading, can you just pop back to me, Michaela, and I'll just do the next step on my choux pastry so that Claire can pour herself a sneaky gin. Right, so the butter is melted. You can see the steam coming off of there and the water has heated up. So now all it's asking me is to add in 75 grams of plain flour. So I'm going to just pop that right in. Click on next, a pinch of salt. Actually, I already put that in. And then again, I'm just going to pop that lid on and it's going to mix that round for, 20 seconds. So back to Claire.
I feel like we are on Blue Peter.
Anybody would think we've done this before.
Yeah, exactly. Right, so all it's asking me to do now is just scrape down the sides of the bowl, which doesn't really need, but I'll do it anyway because it's telling me to. And that's the thing, that's what I love about this. It's like your best friend in the kitchen that doesn't tell you off. But it beeps at you to say, come on, next stage. But it's like a non-judgmental best friend. So that's why I like it. And that's why my confidence has gone like that. And my hips have gone like that, just saying. Right, done that one. Semi-skimmed milk, didn't make that, haven't got a cow. It's only a matter of time. That one's going in. Okay. And then the chorizo and red pepper that I sauteed earlier. Yes, that's all in. And that's. I
always wanted to be a Blue Peter presenter. I don't know about you, but now we've got our opportunity, haven't we?
Yeah, exactly.
Demos.
You know, we should write to Blue Peter and send this video and see if we can all get Blue Peter badges for cooking.
Right, so put that in, and now all it's asking for is again another 30 seconds of kneading, which I don't need to do. So that's enough time for me to do 2 gins.
Yeah, exactly right. And if you could just pop back to me, I'm just during that time, I'm just going to show everybody what's happened with the choux pastry. Are you spotlighting me, Michaela, or not? Yes, there we go. Right, so there we go. That's what I've got. So I've got a little bit of, it's a bit like a sort of just a hot water pastry, I suppose. All I'm going to do now is I'm going to allow that to cool for about 10-15 minutes, because we don't want to add the eggs to it at the moment because the mixture's too hot, so the eggs will start to cook. So we need to keep the lid off and allow it to cool down for about 10-15 minutes. Then we're going to add 2 eggs to it. That's all. So back to Claire.
Oh gosh, I've gone. I haven't gone. Hang on. This is where it's all going to go. Tits up. Oh, right. Moving this because otherwise you can't see what I'm doing now. Hopefully you can just see my messy floury board.
Right. Yep, we can see that perfectly.
Right, so all it's asking for now is so that's all kneaded now and beautiful. So to stick it out on a top, you don't even need to do anything other than just twist the little nozzle at the bottom, which I love, and then it all comes out.
Oh, Claire, I didn't know that. You taught me something. That's amazing.
No way. You didn't
Lindsay, that's an old one.
Oh, no, I had no idea.
Yeah, so there's only a tiny bit left in there, but that's fine. So we'll do that in a minute. And then, as I say, it's all gone wrong now. Look.
She's lost her Wonder Woman.
I have. That's coming down. Never mind. Right, so I took it out onto the surface, bring it together into a ball, roll it out, and then cut out my scones. So all I'm going to do, Lindsay's probably thinking, don't be heavy-handed with the dough. That's about as good as it gets for me, because I don't do rolling. I tend to Try and do it.
No, and that's perfect. And what I would say, a lot of the time when people are making scones, and this is something I often say at demos, is that you don't want to roll out that mixture too thin. A lot of the time when you go to cafes and you see these enormous scones looking like rock cakes, it's because they've started with a thick dough to begin with, and there's no more secret to it than that. And let's have a look. You shouldn't actually twist when you are cutting out scones either. I would just flour the inside of your cutter and then just pop it straight down, because if you twist again, you start interfering with the edges and you don't get an even rise. So it should really be just straight down, straight up, and then onto a baking sheet. And you know, when you've got a dough as well behaved as this, it looks absolutely perfect. And again, that's because it is a Thermomix cookie dough recipe. You can't go wrong with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for that. So I never knew that. So that's a tip.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that I like about this. You join a community of people, and well, certainly for me, I'm learning every single day, every demo that I go to, every Facebook post that people are putting out there. There's just so much still to learn. And I've had TM5 since 2018, this one since last year. And this, you can even get a child in this mess. There's just so much to learn, and it's just so exciting. Well, for me, it's exciting. I find it exciting.
I think I have to say agree, and I think all of us on this call would say I think the nicest thing about owning a Thermomix is the joining this community of owners. I've made some fantastic friends, people that I would never have come across actually had it not been for Thermomix. And it just seems to bring people closer together. Yeah. So that's, and you always learn, you know, on the Thermomix with customer group, customers, owners are sharing recipes that they've made and have been really successful in order to encourage other people to try them. There's always something new to discover.
Yeah, I mean,
so there's a question on, sorry to butt in, there's a question on the chat saying, could you switch the chorizo and pepper for other things? And I think in short, the answer is yes, isn't it? If you want to make different savoury fillings, so if you've got
absolutely, or if you wanted to make them vegetarian, or
and soap,
absolutely, no. I would never have tried things that I now would try. So, and a good example of that for me. So you just took my boobs. I'm coming down here. At Christmas, I made an Estonian kringle. Like probably most of the advisors in Thermomix. If I'd seen that in the Waitrose magazine or the Tesco magazine, I'd have just laughed and turned the page. But I had to go, it was on there, turned out perfectly. And it just encourages you to be creative and try things you would never have thought of trying before, like Lindsay's choux and, you know, things like that. So, right, all it's asking me to do now is to brush the top with beaten egg, and then they're just going to go in the oven for 15 minutes, and I'm going for a lie down.
Brilliant. Right, let's go over to Marie, I think, who's going to start showing us the fruit tarts.
Yeah, hi. So I'm just checking. Can everyone hear me? I have unmuted, haven't I? Yeah, cool. Yeah. So we're doing the fresh fruit tarts, which I think are kind of it's quite an epitome of an afternoon tea. Very often get the pretty little fresh fruit tarts on there. Pastry is something that scares a lot of people, and again with Thermomix, it's just so easy. So we're going to start by doing just a really quick sweet short crust pastry, and then we will show you, because I've got my blue pizza moment. Here's some I made earlier, rolling out and popping it in the tins there. So this is really easy to start off with. We've got 120 grams of diced butter. With pastry, you need to make sure that your butter is as cold as possible. And one of the reasons that people don't succeed with pastry is often because they've got warm hands. Again, doing it all in a machine like this means that that's something you don't need to worry about. Got 175 grams of plain flour going in there. And next is 50 grams of icing sugar. Now this 50 grams of icing sugar is icing sugar that I have made myself earlier on in the Thermomix. I only ever buy granulated sugar these days. Icing sugar is like 10 seconds on speed 10, and caster sugar, which I'll be using shortly, is like 5 seconds on speed 7 or something. So it's so easy, and it saves £1 a bag every time that you're using icing sugar or caster sugar. So massive savings in your pockets there. So we pop the measuring cup and lid back on, and 10 seconds just to mix that around.
You don't have time to pour yourself a gin then, Marie, if it only takes 10
No,
seconds.
not really. Not if you've seen the size of my gin glasses, no. And so into there now, just press next again. It's just going to ask me for 2 egg yolks, which I've already broken there. And again, save my egg whites for numerous things. I use them sometimes in cocktails, but I've also done quite a lot of meringues recently. And you can use them in sorbets, all sorts of goodies. So never throw anything away, hold on to it. So we will whiz that round now. And it's just going to, it puts this onto the turbo and it just blitzes it for 2 seconds at a time. It's just going to ask me to do it 4 or 5 times just to amalgamate those eggs into the flour mix that's already in there.
Yeah, I mean, I always save, if I separate eggs, I always either save my white, if I'm using the yolks and I've got whites left over, I will always save them. With the whites, you can easily, well, you can add them into sort of smoothies, milkshakes, that sort of thing, if you don't mind, obviously raw egg. But you can clearly make meringues with them. They're great in the frozen fruit sorbet. Yolks, you can always make pasta or custard with. So always save your, you know, either your whites or your egg yolks. I've got about 15 egg yolks sat in my fridge, which I need to do something with this weekend.
Well, actually, those 2 egg yolks I got because I made meringues earlier on in the week, so I've got the egg yolks to use and not the whites. So now I've got the other way, you know, the other way around after doing a bit of pastry today. But I've always got one or the other lurking in a bowl in the fridge. So all we're going to do is take out the dough there. This pastry dough is really soft because it's really rich. It's got all that butter in it, and then it's got those 2 egg yolks as well. So it's super smooth. We're just taking that all out the bowl there. And as you can see, it's not a nice, neat ball just yet. But all we're going to do is just pull those crumbs together, and it will come together almost instantly. Hopefully you can see that there.
Yeah, lovely.
There we go. And we've got a beautiful smooth pastry there. All that needs to do now is go and chill out in the refrigerator. So I'm just going to pop that in some cling film. That's going to go into the refrigerator for half an hour to an hour just to firm up. And then here's my one I made earlier. So back to Blue Peter moments. So this has come straight out the fridge, as you can hear. So I'm going to have to put a little bit more pressure onto this just to flatten it out. But we're just going to put this into a circle big enough to cover the sides and the edges of one of these loose bottomed tart tins. So the recipe on there is actually for 6 of a certain size. I've actually got a slightly larger tart tin, so mine will only make 4. But I'm just going to take this down so that it's about 5 millimeters thick and nice and even. You'll notice I'm using a silicone mat and I haven't even floured it. If I was going to flour anything, I might just put a little bit of flour onto my rolling pin, but you don't want to add any flour to your pastry because you're actually changing the recipe then and drying out the dough. So try and use as little flour as possible. So I would say we're about there with that. And you see it's quite pliable and nice and thin and even there.
That's good.
So just pop your tin and pop your pastry over the top of it, and then lift it up and allow it to slowly move into the base of the tin. You don't want it to cut off on the edges. These fluted tins particularly, the sides can be like a serrated knife and can take the pastry down really quickly. So if you just lift it up with one hand and use your knuckles of the other hand to just push it in. If you do get any holes in the base at this point, it's quite forgiving at this point. You can just give it a little push back together to seal it up. And if you need to pinch a little bit off and just patch work.
And that's a really great tip, actually, Marie, because that's something that people are a little bit afraid of with pastry. And you can patch because it just melts together in the oven.
Yeah, you'll never know it's there. And at the end of the day, you're going to have filling on top of it anyway. So it really doesn't matter at all. So
and with a very rich, soft, Yeah, go on.
Yeah. No, sorry.
With
a rich crust.
With a rich pastry, it's almost impossible to get it rolled out neatly. So don't worry about it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've purposely left this bit of overhang around the edges because that will either do one of two things. It will either come off of its own accord in the oven as it melts slightly and starts to cook and even itself off. Otherwise, I will just run a knife over it. I've just pricked a few holes with a fork in the base there so that you can see, and that's just going to allow the air to come through it when it goes into the oven rather than blowing up one big bubble in the bottom of the pastry. I'm going to put these back into the fridge now to chill for another 15-20 minutes to let them relax after they've been stretched out and to chill it down, and that will help reduce the
shrinkage.
Sorry, I was trying to think. Yeah, big word there. Big word to remember. Yeah, that will help reduce the shrinkage when it goes into the oven. So those go back in to the fridge, and we are going to get on with the creme pat. So this is going to be the filling for our beautiful fresh fruit tarts, and this is just like a really rich, thick custard. Is basically creme pat, and I'm going to start off with 70 grams of caster sugar.
Can you put your camera up so we can see you, because you've angled it down to your worktop? That'd be great. Always better.
That would be helpful, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
oh, yeah.
There we are.
Go.
There you're back again.
Yeah, amazing. Ta-da! Here we are. So 70 grams of caster sugar, again made earlier. 40 grams of corn flour. That's just going in there as well. And 500 grams of whole milk. I haven't actually got whole milk. I'm using semi-skimmed. It is fine, honestly. Don't worry too much. There we go. And you want 2 large eggs and 2 yolks from other eggs as well. So it's 4 egg yolks in total, 2 whole eggs and 2 egg yolks. So it's really rich. And then a vanilla pod or a squeeze of vanilla paste or vanilla extract. And that goes on, lid goes on, and that is 7 minutes to cook our creme pat. What we've also done is there is an alternative recipe for banoffee tarts as well as the fresh fruit tarts. I've done exactly the same pastry base with that. And earlier on, I made the caramel to go inside it. And the caramel was just a combination of butter, brown sugar, some golden syrup, some vanilla paste, and a teaspoon of gelatin powder. And that's given us this really thick, gorgeously gloopy, thick caramel, you can see. So all I've done with that is, here's one I made earlier, lined the base of some of those tarts that I pre-baked, and we've got those full of the caramel there. I'm going to put the fresh cream and bananas on top of those. So we've got a banoffee option. So we'll have the fresh fruit tarts and the banoffee option. So we've got the creme patisserie on there. We've got the pastry that has chilled out, gone in the oven. That goes into the oven for 8 minutes at 180 degrees. And we blind bake that. So what we need to do is, in your pastry cases, once they've come back out of the fridge, just bring you back down again, is to take either a piece of parchment paper and just gently push that in, and some either baking beans, which these are, or any dried beans, peas, rice, anything is absolutely fine, and just fill that up. Alternatively, because we need to take that out after 8 minutes of cooking and then give it another 5 minutes to cook, in order that the base of it can actually dry out and cook through, what I like to do is, where has it gone, is make a little baggie of rice in cling film. Now, most people are frightened about putting cling film in the oven, but there's very few cling films these days that aren't oven proof. So if you make a little baggie of rice and then push that in, that will fill out and take the space up.
That's a fantastic
where you've tied
tip.
the bag at the top, you've got just this little bit to be able to, so you can just pull your tray out of the oven. You don't actually have to start messing and taking it off while it's quite fragile and hot. And you can just pick that up and dispose of, move on to the next job, leave it back in there for another 5 minutes to cook. And then when you get them out, they'll be like this one. We said about the overhang on the side. So when we've got that, we'll leave them for a good half an hour to an hour to really cool down, make sure they're completely cool. Doesn't matter how long you leave them, you can't leave them too long. And then just take your knife and trim around the edges and you'll get a nice even finish on it then. And it doesn't matter if it's not nice and even at the end of the day. It's not the end of the world. I'm sure mum's not going to mind, or anyone else who manages to get their teeth on one of these, but you can see how easily it comes out then. And we've got a really thin pastry case there. I've got a little crackage in the side, but nothing that I'm ashamed of. And that's going to be beautiful to be filled with our creme pat as soon as it's finished.
And if you're anything like me, Marie, you'll be eating off the offcut. You'll be eating up the offcuts, will you? If you're like me.
Yeah, one for me. Like this. It'd be one for me and one for the dog under the table. One for me, one for the dog.
Oh, naughty.
Oh, that's where I'm going wrong. My dog is now looking at me as if to say, I've heard that.
Yeah.
Right, so back to these. I'm going to finish off the choux pastry now while the creme patissiere is cooking. And again, creme patissiere, how easy is it to make in a Thermomix? Super simple, a bit like any custard, creme anglaise. Often people are a little bit scared of doing it by hand or have attempted it before and it's not gone right. It just, the Thermomix takes out that margin of error and makes it so simple, even children can do it. Often during Sunday dinner, I'll say to the children, right, if we've done an apple crumble or something, we want some custard, one of the children will make the custard to go with the pudding, because it just, why would you use anything other than your own fresh homemade custard? Right, so my choux pastry is cooled down slightly. It's my Thermomix is telling me it's now at 40 degrees. That's absolutely brilliant. Next step, all I want to do is I'm going to start spinning the blades at speed 5, and then I'm going to crack. Oh no, hang on a minute. It's just reset itself. Right, turn speed selector to speed 5, and then I'm just going to crack the eggs in one at a time. So there's my first egg. In it goes. And I'm just going to wait until that egg is incorporated before I crack the second one in. That, so I can see that's incorporated. So in goes the second one. Just like that. Once that's fully incorporated, I'm then going to give it another mix. Okay, so insert the lid into the measuring cup. And then turn it to speed 5 to give it one final mix for 20 seconds. So I need to get myself a clean spatula. I've got a beautiful combined choux paste dough. Much easier than beating it all by hand, isn't it? Now, in here, you're going to see a piping bag. Again, another piping bag. I've got a tip, just a plastic tip. You can use a metal one, about 1 centimetre diameter. So again, the piping bag, I sort of fold it back on itself into a glass. Here's my choux pastry, beautifully made. Actually, I don't like that spatula. I get a bit... always got a favourite spatula and it's not that one. So here's my choux paste. I'm just going to decant it in to my bag like this. And you might find you might need to leave it to cool for another 10 minutes or so. It will thicken actually slightly on cooling. You can leave it. If it's slightly too runny, it'll be because your mixture's too hot. But generally it should be fine. I had a little look at this one yesterday and thought, oh, I might need to leave it, but actually I managed to pipe it out straight away. So not going to worry about what's in the bottom there. Oh, now it's too hot. So somebody, if I can go to Michaela now, because I'm not going to be able to quite that. It is far too hot for me. So if Michaela can do the lemonade, that would be brilliant.
There we go. Unmute myself. So hi, welcome to the Duchess of Arundel's kitchen. I'm doing strawberry lemonade because I thought it shows you how easy it is and the children can make it. And then I managed to convince Lindsay just to let me sneak in one extra treat as well, what mums will like, a strawberry gin fizz. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put my main camera on to actually see the machine rather than me. And what you'll have is I go into my menu. Oh, can someone mute? Someone mute, please. Can you go for oh, hello. Can you mute them? I can't hear it. There we go. That's it. Then. So I'm going to go into the strawberry lemonade.
If you're an existing customer,
strawberry lemonade.
Or if you're calling about.
Sorry, can anybody go on mute, please? Because I can hear your voicemail. There we go. So these lemonade recipes on Cookie Dough are so easy. So I'm just going to press start and it's asking me to put in 300 fresh strawberries. So I'm just going to weigh that in. And as the ladies have all previously said, because there's actually a weighing scales in here directly, you just plonk it straight in there. So you don't need to have additional equipment. I'm just letting it. Now it's asking for 300 grams of caster sugar. Marie spoke about this. We all make our own types of sugar from granulated sugar. It makes it so cheap and easy. Now this recipe is asking for 300 grams. I don't like using a lot of sugar, so I'm actually just going to put in about 150. So I've halved it. So again, you can control how much sugar you're having your family diet. Just keep going. There we go, just slightly over actually. So then press next and it's asking for 100 grams of lemon juice. So I actually squeezed fresh lemons earlier on and it's going to put 100 grams in there. So as you can imagine, mine's going to be quite tart with less sugar and you're leaving the lemon at the same. So now it's asking me to put on the measuring lid and the and it's gone into turbo mode. Again, Marie showed you this earlier on, and it's going to blast it, as we call it, for 2 seconds, and you've got to turn the selector 4 times. So here we go. Here's 1, and here's 2, and 3, and 4. You will not find a mixer that can grind and blend at that speed. So press next. It's now asking me, oh, let me show you this. It is asking me to sieve through to sieve it, to collect the strawberry pulp and put it into a bowl. So if I just literally, I'm just going to put this on here. Oh, look, that's the dog behind me because he knows that the Thermomix is on the go. Bit like probably Marie's dog. He's now standing under my feet expecting some tips. So here we go. Look, I am literally just going to sieve that, and all I'm doing this for is to make sure that we get the seeds out of the strawberry. And you know, again, this is the reason why the Thermomix is so fantastic, especially for children who don't like bits. You can actually get most of it out with the Thermomix. You can grind it or blend it within an inch of its life there. So there we go. I'm just going to put that in. There we go. In there. And it's going to carry on sieving that through. And as you can see, look, all that's happening is you're getting the pulp going through. And sorry, I'm just on that. The pulp going through, but you are catching all the seeds. So I've just finished that little bit off. It's so lovely. I mean, you just cannot buy the cloudy lemonades with so much lovely colour and freshness. But again, as I say, you're in control of reducing the sugar content that your family go into, take in. So here we go. That's almost done. I'm going to press next, look, on the machine, see what it says. Yeah, it's going to tell me to discard those seeds. So just let me put this over here so you can see it. There we go. And press next again. Right. And then it's even telling me on the cookie dough recipe to actually prepare a jug that I'm going to serve it in. So I'll leave that there and let it strain into the dish for now. I've got a bowl, I've got a jug here. I'm just going to put some, there we go, look, put some ice cubes in, and then it's telling me, it's saying mint. I didn't have mint, they didn't have any in the market, so, but then it just says add the strawberry puree into here. And then what we're going to do is press next. It's going to ask me to add 100 grams of sparkling water, which I've kept in the fridge here. So that if I can now open it, and there we go, look, it's about a litre in there. And there we have some amazing homemade strawberry lemonade. It really is that simple. I'm just going to let that stand. Now for the extra treat that I conned Lindsay into letting me do. So just let me swap that over. Just pour that into there. There we go. I normally have 2 bowls, but this morning I actually made 2 curries as well, ready for later on tonight. So there we go. That was the strawberry lemonade, just a few minutes. So I'm going to finish that now. I'm going to go back into my menu, my weekly menu. And here I'm going to make, oh, look at this, strawberry gin fizz. Every mummy needs it. Okay, so I'm going to put my bowl into here. Press next. It's asking for 1 tablespoon of icing sugar. So here's my other jar, look, I have made of icing sugar. And again, it's just 1 extra spin of your granulated sugar. Save yourself a fortune. I'm going to put 1 tablespoon in there.
I was more worried it's only going to ask for 1 tablespoon of gin.
It doesn't ask for much, I don't think. Press next. Here we go. 60 grams. Can you go on mute if you're not chatting? Thanks. So 60 grams of lime. Again, I had some old limes that were going hard, so I couldn't use it for anything. I just squeezed them and I've made lime juice. So absolutely no waste here. You will see that most Thermomix owners hate waste. So it becomes a bit of a passion, doesn't it? Especially if you speak to Marie. We're always comparing how much dodgy stuff, or Lindsay, out of date produce that you can reuse in Thermomix. Right, 250 grams of strawberries going in. There we go. I'll keep a couple for decoration. Press next. 120 grams of gin. Haha, here we go. I wonder if I'll have a little slip of my hand here. Oh dear, I did. Ah. Next, right, insert the measuring cup and lid, press next, and it's going to mix that for 1 minute on speed 2 on reverse, just to combine that sugar and the alcohol and the lime and the strawberries. So that is going to go on there for a minute. Hold on a minute, what did it say? Yep, sorry, on to 2. So there is a minute. I don't know if we want to pop back to Lindsay.
Hang on.
Oh, she's not quite ready.
Oh, hello. No, I'm not quite ready. So should we just go over to Marie for a minute?
Yes.
That would be great.
Let me just put her on there.
Sorry, just trying to unmute myself there with sticky fingers. So what we have got here now, bring you back down again, is I have taken my creme pat out of the Thermomix, and I've actually just put this over a bowl of ice and whisked it really hard. So if I'm huffing and puffing, that's why. Just to cool it down really quickly so that we can fill the cases with it. Normally you would put it in the fridge for half an hour to an hour to cool down before using it. Obviously, we're just trying to save a bit of time here. But if you can see how thick this creme pat is, it's like it's got a real wobble on it. It's absolutely fantastic. You know it's going to set really firm in the pastry cake, so you can get an actual slice out of it. It's going to be really lovely, and it's really creamy. So we're just going to load up the case, and you want to do it so that it's fairly full. Probably 2/3 to 3/4 full, and ideally thin it out towards the edges and leave a little bit of a dome in the center for you to pile your fruit on. So you can see it's a bit like a jelly, it's really wobbly there. So we've got that, and I've got some fruit. Oh, here that I have chopped up earlier, ready to go. So we simply layer the fruit up now. You can pop whatever you want. I've got raspberries, I've got blueberries here, some kiwi, some peach and some strawberries. So we're just going to load that up. When you have got all the fruit on that you want, I will do my Blue Peter bit again and go, and here's what I made earlier. Then all you need to do then is the Thermomix does tell you the next step is to, after making the creme pat, is to make an apricot glaze, apricot jam, 150 grams of apricot jam, 30 grams of water, stick it in the Thermomix for a few seconds, heats it up and whizzes it round, and then just pass it through a sieve and you've got a lovely fruit-free glaze. You know, there's no lumps or anything in there, and simply dab that over the top of the fruit to give it a beautiful sheen, and it will also help obviously give an added little flavour and help it sort of set in place as well. So that's all we've got to do on there.
Doesn't that look
Repeat
gorgeous?
until finished. They, I think, look wonderful. And what I've also got here is the banoffee pie that I finished off earlier on as well. So that's got the caramel in the base, and I've just filled it with some, then on top of the caramel, some chantilly cream, which again, the recipe's for on the banoffee tart. It's just some double cream and a little bit of icing sugar and a touch of vanilla, and then layered it with banana on top. But I think if Mum was to be presented with either of those tomorrow, that she would be rather happy. I think, I know I would. But they look absolutely delicious. It's taken quite a while to do because it's in stages, but actually hands-on time is probably taken no more than about 10 or 15 minutes of my time. And even with the assembly, say 15, 20 minutes, and you'll get 6 beautiful tartlets that, you know, we've also got 2 flavours here as well that we've done. And that means that everybody gets what they like.
Yeah, and all the more for me. Yeah, so should we just go back
absolutely.
over to Michaela very quickly to show us the gin fizz? Oh, shall I spotlight you? Oh no, you've managed to spotlight yourself. Fabulous.
Sorry, I was just so I'm done, and here we have. Just let me show you. Oh, let me just turn my camera to the right angle there, and here we go. Look at that. So here we have my lovely gin fizz in my afternoon tea, and here we have the strawberry lemonade for the children. Well, my boy, who'll definitely want to join me with that later. All in less than literally 5 minutes. So I'll hand you back to Lindsay.
Oh, thank you. Shall I spotlight myself? Oh no,
Done it.
actually, you've done it. Brilliant. And doesn't that look so pretty? And I love the fact that you've got 2 options. Right, okay, so here we go. So some of you might have noticed, if you were looking at my camera, I had a bit of a piping bag incident. Again, I've obviously reused my piping bags one too many times. But again, I like to make sure I'm not throwing things away that are perfectly usable. So my choux pastry is in here. All I'm going to do, I'm not going to pipe these all out now. I'm just going to show you basically how to pipe out choux buns and eclairs. Right, I think I'm going to transfer you to a smaller tripod. Sorry, you're going to get a view of my ceiling as I do this. Right, I want you like that. Okay, let's hope that that holds. And no, of course not, because my children have been fiddling with this tripod as ever to do their little videos that they like to do for TikTok. Here we go. So here's let's try and put you straight in front of me so you get a better view. So what I'm going to do to pipe out the choux buns, I'm going to get full control of my piping bag like I showed you. So can you see that? I've got a lovely tight fit on there. And then I'm just going to pipe let's show you how to do this. Just pipe out the buns a little bit. You don't want them to be too large. Sometimes you have to sort of have a little fiddle with your finger while you're finishing them off. Depends on how sticky the pastry is. Sorry, Claire, I know there's a sort of a joke in there. There you go. So a few. I am the queen of I'm a bit like Nigella, I think, when I cook. I'm the queen of saying things that actually can be taken wrongly in other contexts. But it's, you know, the choux pastry can be a little bit difficult to pipe out, especially when it's sort of sticky. But don't worry about getting your finger in and sort of wiping it off. So I sort of just twiddle the bag to release the dough, and it comes up to a natural point. Now, if you want to do, I turn it around, if you want to do eclairs, so these could be used actually for profiteroles. They don't have to just be used for choux buns. If you want to do eclairs, all an eclair is, I'll just do it in the middle here so you can see, it's just a long, you won't believe how easy this is, just a line like that. So you can just pipe out lines if you want to make eclairs, and don't forget to leave a little bit of space between them, because they will puff up in the oven. So there we go. So I'm just doing a few eclairs. You can do mini eclairs. I'm going to pipe out the rest later, but what I would say is you need to just get, you do this with a finger, just a damp finger, and you want to just poke those little tops down like this, just so that they don't have a point on top of them, because the point will just catch and get burnt in the oven. There we are. So just poke them down, and then you can just sort of shape. If you've got extra bits, you can just take them off with a wet finger. So that is the choux buns. They go into the oven for 20 minutes at about 190. Just keep an eye on them. The actual cookie dough recipe says to cook them at 190 for 12 minutes and then turn the temperature down to 160 and cook for another cook for another 10 minutes. I tried that yesterday and I didn't think they were quite dry enough, and other choux recipes will say to cook at about 190 for 20 minutes. So I would go for that. I'd cook at 190 for 20 minutes. When they come out of the oven, what you need to do is just prick the bases like that. You can see a little hole with the skewer, and that will help the steam escape, and immediately put them onto a wire rack so that the steam can escape, because if you leave the steam in, then your choux pastry will become very soft. Right, so I've got some choux, so you can see the choux buns I've made earlier and a few little mini eclairs. I mean, they're just very sweet like that. So all I'm going to do now is just cut them in half, I suppose, with a sort of sharp serrated knife. A little cut in half, like this. And these have been in an airtight container. I actually should have had left the lid slightly ajar, because they have slightly sweated and gone soft. They're not as nice and crisp as they were yesterday. That's a little tip. So if you do want to make choux in advance, I would keep them in a tub, but just with the lid not fully on. So there is my choux pastry buns cooked, and all I'm going to do now is just fill them with this ricotta. You can see just a little twiddle like that, ricotta and salmon filling. Okay, so again, let's fill them like that and pop the lid on. So you want to sort of leave them a little bit apart so you can see exactly what's in there. And again, got another one in here. So I just sort of pipe out with my piping bag, all my pressure down from one hand, little twirl, just close the lid. And again, one more. And then if I was going to do an eclair, not going to do too many actually, because I no doubt will be the only one that eats these. I do an eclair, I'm just going to exactly the same, sort of just fill it, maybe just pipe a few little swirls like that and fill. Okay, so there we go. There's my, and you can finish them. You could put a little bit of you can put some little dill over the top, some sort of crushed pepper.
They look so good.
I know, they look lovely and really super easy. And again, you know, we made the ricotta and that has saved us money over buying it. It's also saved packaging as well, and that again is one of the big benefits of being a Thermomix owner. And like you said, I think it was Michaela, we all seem to hate waste. which is, I'm sure there's something in that as to why people buy Thermomixes, and you know, we've all got very similar characteristics. But yes, I made them.
And we get worse, don't we?
And we get worse, yeah. It becomes like a challenge, you know, how much money can you save? And that's true, because when you've got one of these, yes, they're a big ticket item, and a lot of people at the start, me included, go, how much? I'm not having one of those. I've got a food processor, but actually you just don't use other pieces of kitchen equipment in the same way that you use your Thermomix. And it is just so much easier. And it just becomes a lifestyle and a way of life and a community to be part of. So let's have a quick whiz round to everybody before we sign off. I think, should we go to Sarah, because Sarah's been waiting for ages. Her cheesecakes cooked ages ago. There we are.
They're all done, and yeah, I've put topping on 3 of them, and I'll just.
Oh, look at that! That's gorgeous.
Delicious.
That would go so well with my strawberry gin fizz.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna do that later as well.
Can I just say, I've done this recipe a lot of times, and I've also made. We were talking earlier on about cookie dough being a guided implement rather than you've got to follow it exactly, and I replaced the cream with coconut cream, and then I used pineapple and mango to make the compote to go on top, and that was lovely, really good.
Fabulous.
But just varying up, using the same sort of ingredients but just varying.
Yeah, I just delicious.
Okay, so that's brilliant. So Sarah's got her pudding sorted for tonight. We've seen Michaela's. What have we got? So we've seen Marie's, really, and
just Claire.
And Claire. Let's have a look at Claire's scones.
I haven't eaten them all. You see that?
Oh, look at those! Fresh out the oven.
Nice. The smell is amazing of the chorizo and everything. So
fantastic. Yeah, they look brilliant. They've risen beautifully as well. We'll take some pictures and upload them to the group. So all I've got to say, and of course you can put your homemade butter on those, can't you? Absolutely delicious. So all I've got to say to everybody is thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. We've just taken about an hour to cook all that. I love this format where we see each other's kitchens. It just makes it a little bit more interesting. We can all present slightly different things. I would really appreciate it. We're running this class in aid of Women's Aid this month, which is Vorwerk's Charity of the Month. We as a business are trying to raise £50,000 towards this charity, who have seen calls to their helpline rise exponentially since lockdown. And as predominantly a women's business, we felt it very, very important to support them. So I think, I don't know if Michaela, if you've popped the link in the chat already, but we have set up a Just Giving link. You can donate as much or as little as you like. But any donations would be gratefully appreciated in support of this charity. So you've put the link in the chat. That's brilliant. And then the final thing to say is, if you've enjoyed this, I'm going to be running a macaron workshop in a couple of Saturdays' time, teaching people to make macarons in their Thermomix from start to finish using my proven technique. So if you want to be a part of that, again, I'm doing it in aid of Women's Aid. Hopefully Michaela's popped the link in the chat.
I haven't got that one to hand, but carry on talking and I'll find it.
I will send the link round. So I've got everybody's email addresses that registered. So I will send the link round with a link to the recording and a thank you to everybody. So yes, again, if you want to book onto the macaron workshop, all you need to do is click through on Eventbrite, and in 2 weeks' time, on Saturday at 2, I will be showing you and walking you step by step how to make the most beautiful macarons. So once again, everybody, thank you very much for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you found it helpful. I hope it's answered some of your questions. And we look forward to seeing you at another event very soon. Oh, brilliant.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Frankie. Thanks for your comment. Thanks for the feedback.
Thanks.
Brilliant. Okay, brilliant.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, Fiona. Nice to see you.
Thank you all for joining.
Yeah.
thank you. Sorry, I want to speak with my mouth full.
Yeah, I haven't had any lunch. I'm going to try one of these, actually. These look lovely. And I'm going to fill the rest with whipped cream.
The worst thing about these is that we don't all get together to actually be able to, taste each other's at the moment.
I know, it's such a shame, Misha, not sharing this gin with you.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
I think there'd be a fight over that, don't you? Right, let me stop recording. As I'm eating on camera, which is obviously,
I've done
I
it,
hate